we're streaming now. I see a little. Oh, I got a live now.
Yes. Very nice.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I can see you a little better. You look good. I see us, so that's good, right?
Usually.
Yeah, we're just waiting for everything to crash now. Can you guys hear it? I haven't checked to see.
Why is there not? Let me see. Oh, chat.
There's no sound.
There's nobody in the chat yet. That's why.
There's no sound. Are you guys getting sound?
No, there was sound.
I don't hear anything.
It's quiet. Mr. Peabody, everything seems to be working fine.
They can hear me? I don't hear anything on my end.
I hear you. Hang on a minute.
Did you turn up the...
Tilly says the arcade's good. Yep, or sounds good. Mr. Peabody sounds good, so we're good.
Well, I'm not going to worry about it on my PC then. I'm just going to let it do its thing.
Hey, by the way,
Let's turn the sound off.
Playback on other websites, it's disabled again for your, if we try to embed something.
What now?
You know, occasionally you will, you have to go back in and change the settings because the video won't let itself be embedded.
What? I don't understand what you're saying.
Never mind, forget it. It doesn't matter.
Mr. Peabody and Tilly's Arcade. I don't think I've seen those guys in the chat before. Have I? Welcome to the chat. We'll just give people a couple more minutes. Right? What happened to Brian?
He turned into a dot.
There's a big S on the screen for sucks.
All right.
What if Mr. Peabody and Tilly are just telling us that it's working? Oh, I don't think I've seen that kiosk behind you before.
No.
That's pretty cool. Sega. What is that? It's not like a Dreamcast. What is that?
It's a Sega Saturn.
Oh, it's a Saturn. I love this Saturn.
It's playing Tempest 2000.
Oh, yeah. Tempest X on the PSX, right? Sort of. And actually, wasn't that game introduced on the Jaguar?
It was.
Yeah. Which is a pretty cool system for the last Atari system, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it's super collectible now, but I could tell you that nobody gave a crap about it for a long time.
Yeah, no, and it was too expensive. I think that was part of the problem.
Yeah.
Was it? Isn't that how most of this stuff works? Nobody would give a crap about it up front, and then everybody got rid of theirs, and then now it becomes rare and valuable. And
I guess I would agree with that to a degree. If you look at the NES, though, I mean, that system launched very strong and is still highly collectible today.
That's true.
There are very few systems like that, though. Like the PlayStation 1 launched very strong, in 95? I think it's kind of having a little resurgence right now, but you know, they made it backward compatible on the PS2 and PS3. So if you have any of those discs, you can still play them. Brian Frober, what's up, yo?
Frober.
I suppose that's German. My name is Brian Frober. The goggles, they do nothing.
I get it.
Yeah, well, that's good. We have actually a bunch of people in the chat right now. I said let's get this thing rolling.
Where did you say to find the chat again? Just, I guess I could find that right off of your.
Yeah, if you go to youtube.com/arcade radio, that's RCADERADIO/live, you'll find us.
Okay. Right now.
We're working on the SEO. I'm actually registered some new domain names. I'll talk about that stuff in a little bit. That'd be fun. Right?
Woo!
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna put the gas on this thing. Just about now.
Well, we had a call from a man who's in Lakeland whose video game hobby found him on the wrong side of the law. News Channel 8's Lance Williams has the exclusive details.
Live from KOIR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is Arcade Radio.
Hello, Commander. Computer reporting.
Intruder alert, intruder alert.
A stimulating opponent.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 11 of the Arcade Radio Podcast. Today is Thursday, March 7th, 2019, and the time is now approximately 7:20 p.m. Central. Thanks for joining us in the Arcadosphere. This is your host, Adam Alam. What? Adam Alam a Ding Dong? Really? Okay, I like it. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark. Worst pun writer ever, Shields, and ParadiseArcadeShop.com, and part-time Knight of the Round Table, Brian Bloody Scrubs III. And tonight, we bring you one of the most trusted names in the arcade hobby and beyond. It's Mr. John Exidy Jamshid himself. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. The first part of the show, we do this little thing we like to call, what you've been working on. And I think we're going to have, I don't know. Let's have Brian pick it. Whoa, hey, whoa. Oh my God, it's so loud. Someone stepped on the board. I'm sorry about that. Brian, what are you working on?
And now we have to hear it.
Now we have to hear it again because it's coming through.
So,
Yes.
Did we lose Brian?
No, we're
no, we didn't. So, I've been working on a Donkey Kong Jr. that I showed off actually today. We had a switcher that we'd put into it and put 4 boards in it. We showed up with 3 boards. We had to kind of swap the harnesses out. So we grabbed one of the Vector Lab switchers, threw the 4th board in there, and we can now play, Donkey Kong 2 Remixed, Deranged, DK Jr. Remixed, and DK3 all in one cabinet. Had some fun with that, and I finally put my Tron back together using the Phoenix Arcade plastics and control panel overlay. And man, the fluorescent inks are absolutely stunning.
Mark can
they
attest
are
to those
gorgeous.
because those are in his machine as well.
yes, stunning.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I've mentioned this a million times on the show, but that Mark's machine is the one that's featured on the Phoenix Arcade website for those plastics, and they look beautiful. They make me want to cry.
I'm crying right now.
Mark, what are you working on?
Hello, Mark Shields, TimeMachineRental.com. Let's see. I finished my Marble Madness restore. The last, there was no background when I was running the game, and so I just removed all the chips and cleaned them out with some deoxit and put it all back together. Play Marble Madness.
You're breaking up,
They
buddy.
do that you can, play in the game. Sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, we've lost you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We heard about a
third of it.
about that
Oh.
much.
Oh man,
I know.
that sucks. Maybe I should just record this and then let you play it.
So you said you got you were talking about
Marble Madness.
Marble Madness. We got that
Right.
part, and then something about a Warlords PCB.
Yeah, right. So Tilly's Arcade
Yeah.
on Instagram, aka Ryan Tilden. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they helped me snag a Warlords PCB, so I'm giving them a shout out.
Nice,
I got a coin mech.
dude. You should be like getting close to getting that done. We lost
He's
him.
frozen.
He's frozen like the state of Minnesota. Well, how about I jump in and just talk about what I've been working on because it's very short. Yeah. So, what I've been working on is
it
mostly
frozen?
the website, or not the website, but the show itself. So, we had a big change over the week, and I started publishing new episodes again on Anchor FM, which we used to be with SoundCloud, where you're switching over to Anchor FM, and it's anchor.fm/arcade radio. And we are all propagated, ready to go on Google Play. So if you're a subscriber there, great. And if you're on iTunes, don't worry about it because it's already going there. We did rename a bunch of episodes. We've dropped all the nonsense at the beginning of the episode, so you just get the arcade, whatever the name of the episode is and who's starring in it, which is great. So that's kind of fun. And Anchor FM supports tagging with seasons and episodes, so it should be easier for us to keep things organized on our end. We will still talk about our episodes in seasons and not in episodes because that's how we roll. But I've been very happy with the support I've gotten from Anchor.fm. The quality is great so far, and I'm super excited about it. So have a look-see. I also renamed a few episodes, some new descriptions for the episodes. If you go back, you might decide that they're more interesting than when we first wrote about them. And
Shut up.
what? What? No, I'm not.
I know
said
what
I
you're
wanted-
talking about.
Hey, everything's an affront to everybody. I'm not trying to bust anybody's chops. Some of the stuff I rewrote was for my own my own edification because, like, for instance, Kat Despira, right? She's self-proclaimed retro bitch, has her little, blog and everything, which is fun. But the episode was named temporarily Love Potion number 9 because it was episode 9 of season 2, I believe. And it just seemed a little amorous and not really fitting for her, so I changed it. And now the name of the episode is Retro Bitch and Camaro, which I think is a lot more appropriate. So, anyway, just working on show stuff, clips, lining Exidy up to be on the show. So thanks for coming on to the show. John, what have you been working on? Tell us.
As in projects?
Yeah,
game
in the
projects?
arcade hobbit, it's like it's your life. So, and we're going to ask you about all this stuff later in the show. So if you have like a summary of something that's cool that you've been working on in the last, week that you want to talk about, it's like a couple minutes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I recently started working on a Cubert's Cubes, actually.
Oh, cool.
The cabinet that I had was pretty rough. There's a local guy here. His name's Eric. He does excellent, cabinet work. So I dropped off the game over at his place, actually, and I let him do the restoration of the cabinet. And then I recently just wired it and got it going. And that was a good 6 months, that whole process. But
Cool.
it really paid off.
Awesome. So that, besides that, is there anything else like personally on an arcade level you've been working on you're excited about?
I'm always working on something, to be honest with you. What I do is I have probably a few hundred games that I'm planning on restoring, right? So what happens is I'll restore one.
Versus
and then
my
when I
5 games.
Yeah. I just move to the next one and to the next one and to the next one. So it's just an ongoing thing, basically.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
How do you
Oh.
prioritize that?
Paul's got questions. Paul, just fire him off. We'll get him going. What did you say, Mark?
I was asking, how do you prioritize out of the hundreds?
By the way, we can
Yes.
see you on the show, Mark, when you show your disdain for me interrupting you. Just so you know.
No interrupting.
It's like, God, what the hell?
There's no real way that I prioritize it, by the way. Basically, like I feel like playing something or I want to just finish something, so I'll jump into it at that point. One of the longest projects I've had is a Quantum, actually. I picked it up like in 2006, and I think I'm still working on it. So what I do is, I think last year I put the side decals on it. This year I might do the front and then start wiring it and stuff like that. So it just depends on, what I feel like doing, really, when it comes to my personal collection.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Mark, let's try you again. You got your Warlords PCB shout out to Tilden. Purchase tokens here. You did get an awesome sign, right?
That sign is from Six Flags Astroworld. It was a collector bought like 400 signs.
And just for the listeners, when they listen to this in the podcast, what does it say?
Purchase tokens here.
It's pretty cool. It's a giant sign. It's like 3 by 2.
It was above, the token machine before. It's like part of my childhood. Aaron, Arcadeology, gave it to me, actually.
Yeah, and that's where you got your pole position, right?
Pole position's also from Astroworld.
Yeah.
I actually have some friends that also have games that they discovered were from there as well. That's this park that they destroyed, so all of our childhoods are gone. So,
well, that's why we're in the hobby, though, right?
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, there's a reason why we're bringing all this stuff back. I know. Maybe I'm off base.
Well, also, I do it so all the people I kidnap think it's the 80s again. No.
Well, what do you say we jump into some arcade news? I'm kind of excited about this right now.
Yeah, me too.
All right. It's the arcade news with Brian Armitage III. You're probably not there.
I'm surprised you guys don't keep adding numbers to that every week. I'd be up to
that's a good idea.
15 or
actually.
so by now.
Oh, that's a good one.
So we got a few stories this week. First one is Kat Despira, who's an arcade historian. Adam just brought her up. Was doing some looking into basically Pac-Man arcades and why they always have the distinct wear pattern on the outside of them. And she went through this description and looking at old pictures of it and looking at how during the Pac-Man Mania in the 80s, you could see the players grabbing the cabinet because as they were moving the joystick, they were kind of stabilizing their bodies or holding themselves in place. And it just became a habit. And so one of the things that we talk about in restoring these cabinets and kind of going back to some of the history of what was theirs, everybody's doing a lot of work to get the original paint back, get the decals back, and kind of make them look good. And so one of the questions is are you erasing some of the history when you get rid of this kind of original wear pattern that everybody was putting on these cabinets when they stuck their hand on that side? Notably, one of the things is most people are right-handed, so the wear pattern was typically on the left-hand side of the machine where they gripped it with their left hand. So kind of a interesting analysis of something that's really common on those machines.
I have a question on that. So are you guys arcade... do you grip the side of the... I mean, do you hold on to the side of the Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man cabinet when you play?
I do.
I do too.
I don't.
I'm just terrible at it.
Maybe you have like really good balance. And by the way, I sent her some pictures of the Pac-Man that you have. You haven't sold it yet, have you?
Mine?
Yeah.
No. I'm not going to redo the sides either. I'm going to keep it the way it is. It has wear there.
Nice.
But like when I play Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Man or like even Mousetrap, well, Mousetrap's a little different because you have to keep your left hand on the buttons, right? But with the Pac-Mans, I do not grip the side of the machine. I am a single-handed player. So
that's why I like Super Pac-Man, because there's a button for you.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Ambidextrous as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 2 buttons. They were very considerate.
So
I'm sorry, go for it.
In other news, we wanted to talk about there's a local con, 2D Con. Been talking a
you
lot
said
to
2D.
Joe and
Sorry.
So Joe and Shanna have been doing a great job for the last 3 years. It's going to be their 4th year. This is in Minnesota, southern Minneapolis, It's going to be at the Hyatt this year. It's designed as kind of a combination of tabletop RPGs, doing speed running on consoles, but also retro gaming and arcade games. Last year, they had quite a selection of music and dance machines that showed up. But this is going to be year number 4. Last year, they had 2,100 people came through in the weekend. In their third year, kind of an impressive number. And this year, they're expanding out to the Hyatt with 15,000 more square feet. And we're doing a lot of work. Actually, the local community is really doing a lot of work to make this something where the arcade really shines and stands out.
Yeah, so one of the things I helped on that recently with was, and they just announced is they have a special donor package. They have a special donor package for people that are bringing pinball and arcade, and there'll be a private pinball tournament for those that are bringing pinball machines, and you get a little extra bumper sticker, and you get some vending money that you can spend in the vendor hall. And also VIP access to the con. So there's a VIP party for the people that bring games. That includes people that bring video games as well. So check that out. I think the other cool thing, Brian, is Paradise Arcade is probably going to play a pretty big role in the arcade this year.
We offered to bring 40 machines over to the event. So we're going to be bringing 10 pinball machines, 10 candy cabinets, and about 20 classic arcade machines over to the event. And so it should be kind of fun. We're going to try and bring some fun stuff out that people don't normally get to play. I'll grab a few from my collection. Haven't decided exactly what yet we're going to do as for the rare games, but we will have the 6-player X-Men and a few other fun machines you don't get to play too often over there.
Sweet. I like it.
6 players.
And the last bit of news today. So I've been trying to bring some new products out. And there's a really cool new product that showed up on KLOV recently by Vector Collector. And I know a lot of people in this in the chat as well as on the air broadcast right now deal with this. But the Atari games are notorious for the AR2 systems breaking down and having problems. The voltage going out and just wreaking havoc with the boards, burning out boards and causing all sorts of problems. Well, Vector Collector has not only designed basically a system for protection.
Is anybody else seeing this?
Little voltage protection board.
Oh, the wonders of wireless.
Remote voltage monitor.
Sorry, we lost you.
So, neat little idea. Really kind of add something to those Ataris to protect one of the common failure problems. So I just thought it was a neat thing to bring up today.
Okay.
All right.
Does anybody know what?
I can't wait to have an LED inside of my cabinet that I can't see. That's going to be great.
So, just to reiterate, so that on the AR2, the most common failures is the LM305. Is that what you were saying? Something about that?
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's this product is a plug and play solution that removes the +5 and if the +5 exceeds predefined over voltage threshold. So basically it's like a limiter and it's supposed to help save boards. Is that what I hear? We lost pretty much everything you had to say, Brian.
Oh, we lost Brian altogether.
Is he frozen again?
He's just gone.
He's gone.
That's sad. That's real
It's
sad.
okay. That was great news. I'm excited. I can't wait to buy.
Well,
I actually said I would buy 3 of those, so that's going to be
Well,
fun.
that's a great. I mean, it is a good thing, right? So basically, it's an LV2000 for the AR2 boards, right?
Yeah, and it'll protect. Like I have a real Warlords. I would like to protect that board.
Cool. Yeah, I've got a Warlords. I've got an Asteroids Deluxe. I've got a Star Wars. I've got a Tempest.
So is that like a switcher attached to that, or does it actually run power, this adapter thing he's talking about?
So it says it includes a +5 rail over voltage protection lockout. So it's got to be getting voltage from somewhere.
Well, it actually plugs into the plug on the
the
linear board.
9-pin connector, right?
Yeah, it's like it's like an interlock type, not interlock, but an in between type thing.
Sure. Yeah.
You plug the regular,
It's like a filter board. Like Star Wars come with a filter board originally. Then went between the main board and the. It's the same concept, but it's for an AR2 or AR1 for that matter. So, right?
But not AR3 apparently. All of us AR3 owners are going to be really sad.
We're just screwed. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one.
Back in '82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin quarter mile.
Back to the cave with Time Runner.
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
We're going back to March 7th, 1986 today. Everybody remember what they were doing March 7th, 1986? Exidy, were you born at that point?
Oh, yeah.
You look like a young man, sir.
I was 16.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so was I, huh? Class of 87, so.
88 right here.
Nice.
91.
Okay. That's kind of neat. All right. So, hey, we're going to talk about 4 topics. The first one, technology. The little-known sequel, Hopping Mappy, was released in March 1986. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
Right. That would be
I
kind of a
know
cool
this-
one to make like a mock arcade cabinet or something.
Yeah, if I remember right, it's a Rolling Thunder conversion, right?
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. I
The
didn't.
board set.
Huh. Yeah. Well, I see it runs on Namco System 86 hardware, so I presume you could just get some of that, put this thing in there, and bam.
Yeah, I think Brian Jones from Game Stencils, maybe like 10 years ago, was working on something like that. That's the only reason why I know about it.
Brian Jones. He has a question for you later in the show.
Does he?
Oh, yeah.
They
Proc,
have a
right?
lot
It's
of-
Proc.
Oh, Proc, right. Oh, yeah, Proc. Let's see. At the box office, Pretty in Pink continued
yeah.
its reign at number 1. And let me
That
tell
show
you-
is so racist, and it's not PG by today's standards. There's boobies in it.
I like John.
I
Most
like
John Hughes
boobies.
movies had boobies. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
But
But
you know, confused high school boys everywhere dressed up as Ducky, and were very confused after being friend zoned.
Oh,
by
I was
all their
thinking
attractive
16 Candles. 16 Candles
No.
has boobies. Pretty in Pink, no boobies. Besides that, what's his name? Hughes. He didn't direct Pretty in Pink.
John Hughes did not. No, he did not. But he wrote several. My favorite John Hughes movie is not directed by John Hughes. It's called Career Opportunities.
I love that movie.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's about the guy that gets caught in the Target with Jennifer.
What's her name?
Yeah.
Jennifer Boobies.
Pretty in
You
Pink.
know
Pretty in
that
Pink
girl.
was written by John Hughes as well, but not directed by him.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I was thinking
Let's
16
see.
Candles with Carolyn. You've got Carolyn. Boom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's so much stuff wrong about that movie now, but even like Teen Wolf, there's people like in the stands yelling stuff. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. The 80s, it's in the past. On TV the same night, I think the best thing that was on was the revival of The Twilight Zone. Did you watch it when they brought it back?
Yeah, that was actually on for a few years. It didn't get canceled right away.
I know but I barely saw it. I know they're bringing it back again.
I saw the trailer. And actually I've been very skeptical because they also brought it back in the 2000s with Forrest Whitaker.
Right.
I
forgot about that.
Yeah, so there's been 2 reboots of it already. This one was with Peele. Is his name?
Jordan Peele, is that his?
Yeah. So anyway, the trailer looks. Let me just say, I approve of the trailer.
Yes, I feel like it's got a Black Mirror kind of feel to it.
Yeah, and they also have elements of the original Twilight Zone in it. So I think I'm gonna give it a chance.
Nice.
But I have more confidence than say Star Trek Discovery.
So let me just quickly say the episodes that they played. They did 2 back to back when they did it in the 86. One of them was the episode where they have the box with a button. If you push it, a stranger dies. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It's not that good of an episode. But then the other episode is about a time traveler who prevents
Oh man.
sort of sacrifice himself because somebody has to die. He doesn't want Kennedy to die. So that's kind of a fun episode. It's funny. Both of these are available on YouTube for free. I watched them today and wasted an hour.
So one of them is about saving Kennedy. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the Saving Kennedy one's called, I don't know why, Profile in Silver is the name of the episode. Okay. And the other one's called Button. At least that one makes sense. But Twilight Zone.
That's
1986.
Excellent.
And the sequel to Mappy, only available in Japan. Huh. Yes. Hey, what's in the Juke?
What is in the Juke? Wait a minute. You want me to play the frickin'... He just.
You should, like, when I start the whole TV thing, you have to get that.
Yeah. All right.
Hello and welcome to What's in the Juke.
Okay, here we go.
Is it done?
No. Wait for it. Wait.
It's done?
Wait. Holy moly, that takes a long time. I kind of want to change it, but then I kind of don't. You know, it's like, all right, you know the name of the drill. So, this is where our chatters fight for points and recognition in a game called What's in the Juke.
And John, you're welcome to play this. We're going to play a tiny snippet of a song, and if you can guess it,
just a
you
little
will
bit,
be rewarded with points and a pat on the back.
I should just blurt it out.
And exactly, and our internal admiration. And it looks like Casey's not in the chat tonight.
Casey.
That's
so
right.
That means it's a fair fight.
All right, everybody. Just for those that have just joined in tonight, we're going to give you the rules. The rules are: we play a clip, just a tiny little clip, and you guess what the song is. If you guess properly the name of the song, you get half a point. If you guess properly the artist of the song, you get another half point for a full point. Right? Am I right so far? That's how we've.
And depending on the order that it shows up on our side, that's the order that we take it.
Exactly. So you will hear this
half point
if you get half of it right. You will hear this
full point
if you get it all right, and you will hear this if you continually fight about it. All right, here comes the first clip. Here we go. That's all I'm giving him. 3 seconds. That's what I gave him. Is that good?
I like it.
Yeah. Andy Baldwin says, your side is fake news. How is playing a song fake news? I just want to know. Hey, Brendan Parker's in the chat.
Brendan Parker's in the chat.
Welcome to the show. We got the Davelope. We got the Monosurge. We got the Andy Baldwin. We got the Paul Cernan. We got the Mark Capps. The chat is a hopping.
Looks like Davelope got the title.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I should give him a half point for that. Davelope gets a
half point.
All right. Brian Frober.
Has anybody got the artist?
Yeah, the artist. Who sings this mother trucking song? I'll tell you.
Yes.
All right, here we go. We're going to play a little bit more. Someone's got to be able to look it up by now. I mean, if the burning heart is correct, you should be able to look up the burning heart.
Justin Bieber, Coverdale, David Coverdale.
No, and no, and no. Wow, there's just a whole lot of not correct in here right now. We're gonna have to move on.
We're moving on.
All right, so that was Burning Heart by Survivor. You guys missed the half point on that. So that was a half point for, was it Davelope?
Correct.
Davelope's in the lead with half a point. Okay, here comes the next clip.
Pounds, dollar, millionaire, pound, dollar.
That's pretty tough.
And we're looking for the longer version name of this song.
We are?
Sure.
Okay. See, that's very difficult. I'm going to play a little bit more. Oh my God, Brian Frober pulls it out again with a half a point for How to Be a Millionaire, which is correct, right?
Half point.
Oh, he got the full point then.
Well, did he get ABC? Well, he has a full point now.
Full point.
For Brian Frober. Way to go, Brian Frober. way to take control tonight. I'm very impressed. Okay, here comes the next track.
So listen.
Must be like the. Is this the 12-inch?
It might be, but
I have no idea.
well,
It's kind of a cool version.
it is kind of cool. I think it's not the right version, but I'll go into the middle of the song a little bit.
'Cause in your dreams, a demon screams. I know it's gonna hurt you blind.
The Davelope swoops in for half a point, just out of nowhere, right?
Half point.
And that's the Thompson Twins. But what is the name of the
Nobody
song?
figures out what the title.
All right, here we go.
Some people hunger for fame and fortune all their lives. They're fools in paradise.
Just let it go.
I'm not. They should get it after that for sure. Come on, Davelope, you got this.
I was something.
For just a day? King for just one day. I'm going to have to give that to Brian. That's pretty close.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Half point.
That was King for a Day by the Thompson Twins. So far we've had Burning Heart by Survivor. We've had How to Be a Millionaire by ABC and King for a Day by the Thompson Twins. Here comes your next clip. Here we go.
I'll see you at the dance.
What's going on?
My kids
See you
yelling.
at the dance.
See you at the dance. That's it. That's the. Should I play more? I don't know. I think that's pretty good. I don't think we need to play more.
It's very distinct.
Two Brians.
I wanna get like a pager, like that makes it sound.
Your ringtone?
That's going to be my ringtone.
My ringtone, yes, thank you.
I love that. I'm going to make it my ringtone.
I'm prepared for Captain Marvel, so I'm starting to reference pagers again in Blockbuster.
All right, we're going to play a little bit. Oh, Randy Gelking jumps into the chat, picks it off. He's got a half point for Sly Fox. Let's see if you can get the name of the song. Half point goes to Randy Gelking. And it was followed up by the Davelope with Let's Go All the Way for half point. You guys are doing a great job. All right, here comes the next track. Oh, that's good. I like that. See if anybody can get it from that. I mean, Casey would have got it by now, right?
I wouldn't be able to.
All right, I'll play a little bit more. That's it. I'm not playing it anymore. Nice. Oh, Steve got it. Steve Murky jumps into the chat with ROCK, and he got it's John Cougar. I'm gonna have to give it to him. It's not really John Cougar though. Should I give it?
No, it's John Cougar. He went by both, so it's the same guy.
But it's Mellencamp.
It's not like there were two John Cougars.
But Randy Gelking was closer with Melonhead than. You know what I'm saying? So who gets it? Somebody. Okay, Brian, we're giving you Mellencamp. Okay, so half point for Brian for technicality. Is that okay? I think that's
half point.
Brian Frober gets half point, and Steve Murky is on the board
half point.
With half a point. Okay, here we go. This one. Here we go. That's it. Ooh, Randy, you got it. Russians half and Sting. Randy pulls it off for half point and a whole point. Look at that.
Full point.
Randy's in the game with a full point. I think he's
pulls up next to Davelope.
Wow, check that out. Just coming out of nowhere. That was Russians by Sting. Last one was ROCK by John Mellencamp. No Cougar yet. I mean, he had switched over by then. Okay, so because originally it was John Cougar. They thought his name Mellencamp was too campy.
Are you sure? Because I just copied this out of the Radio Top 40 whatever thing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, well.
I'm sure.
Okay.
ROCK
believe
is
you.
off of his album Scarecrow, which was under the name John Mellencamp. So, okay,
Got it.
here we go. The next one is one of my favorites. Here we go. Brian Frober's in with half a point with ZZ Top. And, it is not changes. It is stages. Andy Baldwin comes in with a name for half a point.
No, Brian got stages also. It's right after ZZ Top.
He did.
He did.
Where'd Brian get it?
Right after he said ZZ Top.
Oh, he got it, both of them. But I'm sorry. Brian Frober, man, gets a full point.
Full point.
Look at that. That was some serious fighting. I'm telling you.
Somebody Brian's. Good job, Brian Jones.
That's
though.
great. So that was Russians by Sting, Stages by ZZ Top, and this one I'm only going to play a little bit of it. That's it.
It's such a slow song.
It is such a slow song.
You can slow dance to it, you know.
Yeah.
Tarzan Boy, no?
Yes! John Exidy on the board.
John Exidy just called out what? What did he call? Oh, Tarzan Boy, Brian Jones.
But John got the title first.
But who got the name? Randy got the name. Randy got in there with Baltimore.
Oh, very nice.
Half point.
For Randy and a half point for the guest star.
Half point.
Which rarely happens. I mean, it's very sad how bad, like on this side of the board we are. And I know I would suck if I was up against these guys. They're really good. All right, so here we go. We got two more songs left, and only two left in the jukebox. Here we go. That's it. I'm not playing it anymore.
I like that song because it sounds like they decided, like, oh, let's start to play this and then we'll stop. And
this is one of my all-time favorite bands ever. Ever.
Yep.
And that is In Excess. Dave Elopes in with In Excess. And what is the song, peoples? Brian Frober. Dave Elope with half a point. Brian Frober with half a point.
Half point.
And a half point.
Half point.
What you need, you guys were just in there, very, very close.
Let me summarize this. Right now, Brian Frober is in first place with 3.5 points. I think actually he can't lose. Dave Elope and Randy G are tied with 2, and Steve Murky and John Exidy tied with a half point.
Okay, we should make this a little more interesting. What do you say the next one's worth 4 points?
All you need is 2 points, but yeah.
2 points to beat Brian?
Sure.
All right, 2 points. It's worth 2 points. This is it. This is the challenge.
You can do it, Brian.
All right, here you go. This is it. That was What You Need by In Excess. Here's the next clip. That's all I'm playing.
Wow.
I think that's good enough.
Song with drums.
Song with drums. We like those. We may have played this clip before. Here we go. Randy Gelking gets it for half a point. He gets 2 points. Addicted to Love with Dave Elope. Where does that put them? They each got 2 points. No, they got at 1 point each, didn't they? So they still lost. See, if I made it 4 points, it would have been more fun.
It would. Okay, well, Brian.
Missy Elliott. Casey Relford jumps in with Missy Elliott. Listen. Listen, you.
Oh.
Oh, my God.
I have so many XP questions.
Okay, I gotta say, that was What's in the Juke. Thanks for playing Addicted to Love. Robert Palmer and Mark, why don't you tell us who won and what they won?
Hey, the winner tonight is Brian Frober with 3.5 points. You've won a pat on the back and a hearty hi-ho. Yeah.
And the admiration of all the people on Arcade Radio. Yes. Thanks for listening to the show, and thanks
You're
for playing.
So cool.
We'd just like to say thank you for playing.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
This long-distance dedication goes out to you.
Why don't you hug yourself? Sorry.
Do we have any? We don't have anything in the can tonight for a.
No.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on to the. Boy, this show. I tell you, sometimes this show is just so disappointing.
No calls. No calls.
I know we don't have any calls. We should just make
Did you
one
check?
up. Let's just okay. Let me just check. No, I didn't check. Usually, I'm told if I'm supposed to check.
Sometimes people leave real calls. I don't know what that means. The drummer in my band says he's going to leave a call, but he hasn't done it yet. So, we seem to not have gotten his call.
Listen, if anybody really wants to leave a call, you can call 612-548-GAME. That's GAME, as in Gamers and Gamers Anonymous.
Yeah, you could leave it during the show. Maybe we'll notice.
Yeah, maybe. It might pop up if I even had the window open for that.
Yes, you will. Andy Baldwin saying, can we ask John Exidy game pricing questions? And
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely. Yeah, you can just call and leave a
Why
message
not?
on the game line. We'll play him back next week when he's not on the show. Oh, my God. We have actually, there's a bunch of questions in the chat. So I'm going to move on to the next section of the show, which we're all looking forward to. Christ, that is loud. Oh, that's the sound of guest. What is it the sound of? I don't even know what I was going to say. That's it.
This is where we introduce our guests.
Oh, wait. Okay, here we go. This is where we...
He has some text.
We're like on schedule. This is right on schedule. Welcome again to this show, John Jamshid. It's great to have you on board. Yeah.
Thanks.
We actually
very
have...
sincere sounding.
Was it not? Okay. I'm going to play a clip. Can I play a little bit of clip? We played a little bit at the beginning of the show. I just want to play this clip from 10 years ago. So everybody sit back and relax and listen to this. Here we go.
Casey, there's a guy in Lakeland named John who has a garage that's a sort of shrine to his childhood passion. Video games. The more primitive, the cornier, the better. But the city of Lakeland didn't think that John's garage was an appropriate place for his hobby.
Yeah, so, yeah. They show your garage. That's pretty
Contents
cool.
of his garage are as classic as any 57 Chevy or 1757 armchair.
This is you, and there's chefs coming at it. You have to throw pies at them to try to knock them out.
Food Fight, Pooyan, Tron, they're the video games of his childhood.
I mean, it's a classic video game now, which means, you know, pretty much an antique video game.
Only a true collector would talk about these things in the revered tones reserved for antiques, but John collects them with the same passion that he played them as a child.
And every time I walk by these games, it reminds me of 20 years ago when I was a kid waiting in line to play this game, and the big kids would push me out of the way, you know?
Well, the big kids are back.
Oh, that's it, I guess.
Recently, the city of Lakeland came calling. They sent John this notice telling him the games are a business.
We received a complaint that there was a video game business being operated from that address and that trucks were coming and going.
Believe me, I don't want anybody touching these games. As you see, they're very sensitive.
You're going to say it like a
to begin with,
Dreamcast shirt
you know,
on.
because of their age.
The notice told John, game over, clean out the garage.
The fact that he has business equipment, is that what the violation is?
That's the violation at this point.
So, by the letter of the law, if you collect some sort of business equipment, say old payphones or old Coke machines or, heaven forbid,
collect
a
both of
point-operated
those.
jukebox and the city of Lakeland found out about it, you could find yourself on the wrong side of the law.
I've never seen anybody there playing video games.
It's not as if people are trucking in and trucking out video games.
No.
It's not a nuisance.
No, not at all.
She's a nice
John's
neighbor.
next-door neighbor understands his passion. She collects baskets.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd be very happy.
Were they business baskets?
People put money in
John
her
thought of
basket.
calling an attorney, but first he called us. The city of Lakeland now says the games can stay. This time, the big kids aren't pushing back.
Okay, so that is pretty fun. Probably, it's 10 years old. I know you recently did an interview on this, but let's just jump right into this and ask you about when Lakeland tried to shut you down. tell us a little bit about that from your point of view, and obviously you called the news station to preempt getting kicked out of your own house.
It was actually more like 19 years ago.
Whoa, sorry.
Yeah, and what happened was I was hauling a lot of games into my place, right? And a lot of trailers and stuff like that were coming in because I just kept buying games, and I filled up my house full of games. The real problem was that one of our neighbors thought I was some kid that didn't work, and basically I was just going to run an arcade or something.
There's some 15-year-old kid over there. What's going on?
Yeah, basically, what's this kid doing with a bunch of games in his house?
19 years ago, weren't you like 15? Seriously, we were all a lot younger. I was probably 27 then. Wow.
Yeah, I was about 30.
Wow.
But a young 30.
Yeah, you look young. You're a good-looking man. So, Mark, you had something to add to this?
Right. So I looked up your original post. Let me quote it. This is legendary from the rec.games.video.arcade.collecting news group. And you wrote, I had some bitch from the city of Lakeland, my town, come to the house today and rip me a new ass. She told me that I had to get rid of my games. I have 30 days to do this. She told me the video game collecting was not a hobby and that those are breaking zone laws. What can I do about this? ? But what I really like is how how you were confronted by her. I think she just walked into your house and opened the door or something.
That's exactly what happened. I was inside my house and I was collecting Apple II computers actually also.
Wow.
And she just walked into my house and she said, I was just in your garage. I just saw a bunch of games in there, and I see a bunch of computers on these desks. What kind of a business are you running? And I said, these are Apple II computers. I said, I'm not running any business. And she said, that's not what it looks like to me. And I said, are you supposed to just walk into somebody's house like this?
Right.
And she said, well, the door was open. And I said to her, you need to leave, basically. Mm-hmm. And she left. And then right after she left, I posted on RGVAC. And I actually didn't call Channel 8. I had like 5 or 6 lawyers contact me. And a lawyer told me that he knew somebody in Channel 8. And literally within, I would say, just a few hours, they came out.
That is awesome. And then they played it off, as you called them. But it didn't happen that way. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, that lawyer knew somebody. I mean, I don't think I would have been able to call Channel 8 and say, hey, come out here, and they would have been out.
Right, like, I'm like, someone's going to sue me. Can you do a story on me? And they're like, yeah, who the hell are you? Like that. That's awesome. Paul Saranen, stem cells and solder fumes keep us all young.
Oh, is that what it is? Stem cells, right?
Brian Thompson says, "I've been collecting for 19 years personally. Lived in a loft for 10 years. The building owner did not like my games." I can hear you, Brian. Yeah, and actually, since we're on this subject, how long have all of us been collecting? John, tell us, how long have you been collecting?
I started collecting around 97, 98, actually.
Wow, I didn't start until 2002. Which would probably be the same age then. So, Mark, when did you start collecting?
Oh, I didn't really. I didn't start collecting till 2013 or 14.
Okay, and then Brian, is he on anymore?
I am back, and I apologize. For some reason, I actually had to restart my computer.
Oh,
so we are back and we're in force now. I can actually hear you guys. Before it was like a staticky mess. But
good.
I started collecting in 2007. The first game I collected, I bought my wife for Christmas.
Interesting. What
and
game?
That just kind of was the first game. So she can't say it's all my fault.
Was it the pinball? Was that the pinball machine?
No, it was actually a Galag in a Stratovox cabinet labeled as Original Galaga on Craigslist.
Funny.
Oh gosh.
That must have been beautiful.
It was one of those, like, I probably wouldn't be in this hobby if I didn't start looking into all the like things that didn't make sense on the game, and all of a sudden found Key Olivia and all that stuff. But
that's hilarious.
So So what is the? So I gotta ask you, what is behind the evil Exidy, now John Exidy name? Where'd
Okay,
that start?
So what happened was in RGBAC, everybody kept talking about Atari, and basically Atari was like the main thing, right? Everybody was just collecting Atari stuff, and it started kind of aggravating me because I kept trying to mention other companies and stuff like that, like more underground companies, and people just kept ignoring it. So I thought it would be really funny if I would just change my handle from my name to just Exidy, just to be a smartass. So every time I would post, it would say Exidy on it.
That's funny. I just thought you really liked Exidy games, so that's a good story.
Yeah, so no, just basically, so every time I would post, it'd show Exidy, 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 and then I ended up going to some auctions, and people kept saying, "Hey, aren't you Exidy?" And I was like, "What the heck?" I didn't think it would actually be like a nickname, but then it just stuck. And then I threw evil in front of it to mix it up a little bit.
That's
So
funny.
basically trolling got you your nickname.
That was basically it. Yeah.
Speaking of evil, your first game ever that you bought from somebody, you still remember the name of that person?
Yeah. I'll tell you that story is actually really interesting. What happened was MAME had just started, and I think back then there was like 50 games or less on MAME.
Wow.
And I was blaring Galaga on my computer, and I had a joystick, and my lawnmower guy knocked on my window and said, "Hey, do I hear a Galaga in your house?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I got like 50 games in my house, bro." And he was like, "What the hell?" So he ran all the way around, knocked on my door, and he said, "I want to see your collection." And I was like, "My collection? Sure, man, come on in." He walked into my office, and I pointed at my computer, and he said, "Where's your Galaga?" And I said, "It's right there on my computer screen." He said, "Wow, man, that's super lame." He goes, "I have a bunch of games in my house. You should come and check them out." And I said to him, "Wait a minute, you have real arcade games?" He said, "Of course. What do you think we're talking about here?" And I said, "Bull crap, man." I was like, "Let's go to your house right now. I want to take a look at these arcade games." So he jumped in his truck. I had my girlfriend, who's now my wife, jump in my vehicle, and we followed him all the way to his house. This is no joke. I was throwing a temper tantrum in my car. I was like, "How could this guy have real arcade games and I can't afford arcade games?" I was like, if I go to his house and I open the door and I actually see arcade games in his house, I'm going to be like crushed, because how could this dude afford $2,000 games, $3,000 games?
Sure.
And I have to play them on a stupid computer screen.
Yeah.
So then when we showed up, he opened the door, and I looked inside. His entire living room just filled with arcade games. And my jaw just dropped. I was like, "What is going on here?" And I was like, "How do you even afford to buy this stuff?" He goes, "Dude, I just bought them off of the newspaper. They're like $50, $100 a game."
Yeah.
He grabbed the newspaper, opened it up. He goes, "Look, right here. This guy named Skip is selling some right now, $50 to $100 a game." So I literally left his house, went over to Skip's house. His actual name was Skip Church. And so I went over to Skip
That
Church's
does not
house.
get old. That cannot get old. I mean, like,
Yeah.
seriously.
He actually had a card. It was like him skipping, and there was a church next to it or
Oh, that's
something.
funny.
Like that.
That's very funny.
So I bought 2 games from him. I bought a Double Dragon, and then I bought a Heavy Barrel. And I was so excited. I can't even put words. I can't even explain it to you. I couldn't sleep
Heavy
all
Barrel.
night because I had these 2 real arcade games in my garage.
And your girlfriend
I
at
left
the time is like, "Oh boy, I don't know if this is gonna work out."
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, man, is that I went from 2 games to like 30 or 40 games within a month.
You know, that's funny. That's really fun. Okay, I'm not gonna go into my story, but that is kind of how it goes, right? Like, there's a tipping point, I think. Like, I don't know.
It's like an aha moment.
When I got divorced, I needed something to do, and I collected the shit out of games.
Yeah. My girlfriend ended up going to Kansas City to visit her family, and when she came back, I threw all my furniture into the garage, and I filled my entire house with games.
Oh my God.
All I had was a TV and a couch, and everything else, every room was just games.
That is nuts. That's a, so
And she
Skip
married you.
exactly.
And she was, by the way, I couldn't even fit all the games in my house, so I had a couple in the entrance too, like on the way in.
Oh, the foyer.
Yeah, and she was like, "What is this?" And I said, "It's my arcade, right?" And she was like, "We're gonna get rid of these, right?" I said, "Nope." And that was
Man.
that basically. They stayed.
I would just like to say that all four of us are very lucky to have companions, women in our life that support our hobbies.
Hey, I almost got beat down a few times because of that.
But that's okay. I mean, you're still there. You're still together. You're running three arcade locations. You have your own private collection. You're doing all right. You're doing all right. I mean, right?
Oh yeah, basically what's happened is she realized that, besides the fact that I have a big collection, she knows that I'm into it and I really appreciate it. And she also understands that we make money off of it too. So she's okay with it even more because of that.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure that didn't happen right away, but that we're going to talk about that right now. Actually, Channel 7, the Denver channel, just made up they just did a Mile High Must thing. So now they're rating different businesses in the Denver area and giving them a Mile High Must rating. And the Denver channel just made OneUp one of the Mile High Musts. Can you talk a little bit about your real business, which is OneUp Arcade? And you have locations in Lower Downtown Historic District, which they call Lodo, and Colfax, and now Greenwood.
Right. So basically, the Lodo location was our first location. And what happened was Jordan Adler, he came up to me and said, "Hey, I have this idea about a barcade. Basically put games in an arcade. Put games in a bar." And I said to him something like, "Dude, this is like, you're like the 10th person that's asked me this year. It's kind of like a common idea that everybody kind of has." But then when I talked to him, I realized he was being super serious, and I could tell that he had a real plan going. So I jumped on board, and we opened up the first location. And I was thinking it's going to take us a year or two for it to take off. Day one, it was packed. I mean, the entire place was packed.
When did you open up the first one?
It was around 2010, maybe 2011, somewhere around there.
So there's been this huge resurgence in games. So you guys were right at the front edge of that. I mean, you were trendsetters, because back then arcade bars were not the going rage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't think it was even going to be possible, to be honest with you. I thought people would walk in there and just be like, it's a bunch of old games, and just walk out of there. But it wasn't like that at all. I didn't think about it from the point of view of like a 21-year-old or something like that had never seen them in real life.
Yep.
And they show up and they're like, "Oh, I read about this, or I saw this on TV, or I watched King of Kong and I want to play Donkey Kong because of it." I didn't think of any of that stuff.
It's funny because so we started Paradise in 2009, and a lot of people said, "There's no way you should start an arcade company right now. It's not gonna last." And we weren't predicting the future, but kind of got lucky. You guys, it just all folded in the last 10 years. That this resurgence has been awesome.
I agree. I think that a lot of the resurgence, this is from my personal point of view. People can, argue with me about this, but I think that the success of the King of Kong is kind of what kickstarted this whole hobby, like what it is today.
It definitely brought a lot of attention to it. People started looking for Donkey Kongs and trying to play these original games. You didn't see them on the big screen as much until after that was done, and then you start seeing them sneaking up in all sorts of television shows and also all over the place. So you do have a point there. So
yeah, when I first moved here to Colorado, around 2008, I guess that's when King of Kong came out. I had 2 television stations contact me because of my Arcade Classic site, and they wanted to have game rooms in their, in their place of work. So basically, Fox 31 and I think it was Channel 9 News, they both bought like 10, 15 games for me to put back there. And when I put them back there, both places mentioned King of Kong to me. And they said something like, because of the editing in King of Kong, everybody in both places had to watch King of Kong for editing. So they ended up being like turned on by classic games because of that. And then I explained to them that I was in King of Kong, and then they were even more excited because of that.
I barely saw you in King of Kong. Now, what is the story there? I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor of you, right?
Yeah, so what happened with King of Kong was one of my friends, John Russo, down in Florida, his place got nailed by a hurricane down by Pompano Beach. And his place was literally just finished. Like they just finished fixing it up and stuff like that. And it was empty. And the guys from King of Kong asked for us to find a place to set up some games so they could film this movie. And I said, sure, I have a friend down in Pompano Beach, Apollo Amusements. He has an empty building. We could just go down there. I picked up all the games and I set them up there. And then they followed me around for 3 days. And they told me, you're going to be a big part of the movie. And I said, I don't want to be a big part of the movie.
Interesting. So you loan games in locations, but not yourself.
Right. So what happened was I set up the whole place with games, and then what happened was Walter Day approached me and he said, we need these games there. and then I set up all those games, and then when they followed me around, I started thinking about it. And I started thinking about that movie, Trekkies.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I said to myself, you know what, after this movie comes out, we're going to be laughing stocks. And I was like, even though I take this seriously, people are going to start making fun of me. So I was like, you know what? They handed me a contract, and I said, you know what, man? I'm not going to sign this contract. I want another contract that's going to remove me from the entire movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then he was like, are you sure about that? And I was like, yeah. He's like, we already have all this footage. And I was like, nope, I don't want to be in it.
Good call. Very good call.
So then he came back, and then he gave me the contract. I signed it, and then they took me out. I guess there's an early version, and I'm in a couple of scenes, but for the most part, I'm not there.
Interesting. You mentioned Trekkies. I'm a huge Trekkie. The movie Trekkies to me is interesting. It does cast a negative light on some Trekkies, Trekkers as they like to be called, and of course the young man who they focus on in there. They made an interesting case out of him. But in the end of the film, towards the credits, there is a scene where there's some puppets. There's a Guinan puppet and there's a Data puppet, and they look like Muppets. And a friend of mine's father, a friend of mine who passed away many years ago, his father made those puppets. And so I look at that movie with fondness, even though it's kind of crappy to fans. But at the time, there was nothing going, and there was nothing bigger in Trek. All the conventions that were going on, everything was just nuts. And I'm proud to see them in the end of that movie, even though it's not great,
Hey, I actually thought King of Kong was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a scene that I kind of talk about to a lot of people. You know the part when Billy Mitchell and his wife go walking in, and then Billy Mitchell's wife says something to Steve Wiebe. Yeah, and then he says something like, don't talk to people like that, or something like that. And it makes him look like a real dick, right? I was actually standing there when it happened. I was standing to the left of Steve Wiebe. And what actually happened there was the two came in, and it was kind of a big deal because they weren't going to show up. That's what the news was. Like, everybody kept talking to each other. Oh, Billy Mitchell's never going to show up.
Right.
And when they actually showed up, they walked in, and everybody was surprised. And Billy Mitchell's wife just kept talking and talking and talking to Steve Wiebe and just would not stop talking to him. So he kept looking back at her, and then he goes, don't talk to people like that. Okay? Not because...
because he wanted her to stop talking while the things were going on in the film.
Right. She kept distracting him. And then he said something like, he's trying to get the high score, leave him alone.
Yeah.
But then they cut all that part out of it.
The interesting thing about that is so many people, all the people in the film have said, you can't look at the film as an entertaining film, great, but Brian Kuh and Robert Murchek and Billy Mitchell and Steve Wiebe were all made into characters, and they were represented maybe not as true as they should be in real life.
Right.
And so, and it's tough because you're signing away, your life when you do this documentary. I'm sure they could just sculpt it any way they want. But every time I talk to somebody, it's nothing that happened in that film was necessarily true.
Yeah.
Which is,
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're the guest.
Okay. No, what I was going to say was when we were at Pompano Beach, I remember speaking to all the guys that were there, and they were all under the impression that they were filming the World Championships or something like that, because that's what they were told. Actually, I have photographs of that location, and they had banners up that said World Championship and all this type of stuff. It was supposed to be a documentary about filming a bunch of people playing a bunch of different games. And then I think they found the story, and then they kind of like build it up.
Sure.
Wow. Yeah.
Yagi9, there's a guy in the chat. I don't know who this is. Yagi9 says, tell them about Lonnie. Was Lonnie supposed to be in King of Kong?
Lonnie, is he talking about Lonnie, the local guy here?
Oh, maybe that's what it is. I was thinking Lon McDonald, but
oh, maybe I don't know. I know a few Lonnies, so
yeah. Yagi9 says, tell them about Lonnie. But okay. So, and Brian Frober asks, are you planning to come out to Grinkers this year?
I plan on going to Grinkers every year.
Right.
but it never happens.
Sure, sure.
The problem is we're like super busy with the 3 locations. So I always wait till the last minute and I say I'm going to go, and then all of a sudden something comes up and I can't go.
I've said Lonnie the Lounge Lizard, Lonnie Dawson. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, you know what, man? I don't want to talk about that dude.
Okay,
at all.
good. That's good. That's fine. And sometimes that happens. Sorry, folks. Sometimes in the chat we hear things. We're gonna do the best we can. But
moving along.
We're moving along. So yeah. Was there's a couple of questions too? Top earner at the OneUp Arcade. What's your top earner?
As in a video game?
Yeah, or just whatever it is. If it doesn't have to be a video game. It could be a pinball. Could be a.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If you want to talk about classics,
yeah,
one of the best earners is Frogger.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah, for us, Frogger is the #1 earner in
that kind of blows
both
my
locations.
mind.
Yeah, and then when it comes to newer games, it's like the 4-player pack and stuff like that. They kind of crush it. They do super well.
Yeah, those are awesome. Like the battle royale stuff.
How often do you have to replace the joysticks on those things? Because we've noticed that at the local one, we're putting new joysticks in there every couple of months because people get drunk, they hang on them, and it's almost hilarious to see how badly they get hurt.
You should just replace them with something more durable from the 80s.
Here's the thing, man. The joysticks are Sanwa sticks.
Yep.
So the base is different, right? The base is different than a regular joystick. So what happens is if you want to put like half joysticks or something like that, you're going to have to cut some wood and then kind of change the whole thing around. So, and the Sanwa joysticks are only like $16-17 each. So basically like I bought like 50 Sanwa sticks, and every 2 months, just like he said, I replace them.
That's funny, but here's my thing. If you're going to spend the labor to change these things out, why wouldn't you just buy, do what they did back in the day with the operator? Okay, here's the thing that ticks me off, and it's an Exidy game, so I'm bringing it up. I have a mousetrap, right?
Oh.
Mark has a mousetrap. I have a mousetrap. It's a fun game. I love the game. I get it. Somebody has retrofitted it with another joystick, drilled 4 new holes in the freaking control panel to put this joystick in. That sucks. And it doesn't work. So what do? I can start researching joysticks, Exidy joysticks, and I find out that Exidy freaking rips off Namco Bally Midway, and they basically copied their joystick. Right? Am I right so far?
But isn't the base different? Like the way it mounts?
No, the base is exactly the same as a Bally Midway. The screws are in the exact same spot. So
it's bizarre.
I freaking put in a Miss Pac-Man joystick into my mousetrap because I'm like, I want it to work.
Right.
But here's my point is, you have a game, it's an earner. Cut that sucker. Cut it open. Put a new joystick in there.
The Sanwa joysticks, actually, the funny thing about them, and a lot of the classic guys don't know this, because Sanwa is what everybody uses in the fighting game community.
Right. So you'd think it would take a beating, right?
Well, they do, and actually, we replace a lot of the ones locally with aluminum actuators and things like that that are little custom parts that we have. But the funny thing about it is that instead of the micro switches where you have to unplug each one, it's a 5-pin harness. Swapping one of those out takes like less than 5 minutes. I mean, it's literally pop it open, undo 4 bolts, unplug a harness, plug it back in, and you're ready to go. It's a very quick swap.
Yeah, and you know what, man? For the most part, it's not even the joystick that really breaks. It's just that little board underneath it.
Yep.
And that just takes a few seconds, to swap out.
Yep. TPMAs.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
How did the new, so one of the things that, as classic collectors, we see all these new games, and the new games just, they cost a fortune, right? I mean, relative to what we pay for the old titles, and yet everybody gets them because they're the latest thing. I mean, I've sat down, I'll play some of them have a good time playing the new Galaga retake, the Space Invaders where you sit there and shoot them, and they're fun. But, I mean, how do those kind of stack up against a lot of the classic stuff you guys have? Do you carry any of the new Raw Thrills stuff, or do you stick with mostly classics?
We do. I actually, I like this. We like to sprinkle new stuff and old stuff. I always make the joke that you buy a Miss Pac-Man for $500, it out earns a Raw Thrills game that costs you $8,000.
Yeah. That is crazy. Yeah. Do you have a relationship with Eugene, by the way?
Sure. I've talked to him a few times. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. He's been on the show a couple times. Really nice guy. Super excited about, of course, his business and being able to maintain it these times. But I was kind of curious if you had if you could personally buy games from Eugene.
We buy games. You know what, man? We don't really buy brand spanking new stuff. I mean, we did buy the new Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, and but we tend to buy stuff like Terminator Salvations and stuff like that. Sure. So they're about 10 years old.
I also like that super big Pac-Man game with Pac-Man.
Yeah,
Galaxy.
world's largest Pac-Man.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. You know what's strange though is it has a 8-way stick in it, so it's just a little bit strange because Pac-Man, you're gonna need a 4-way stick on it. So whenever those break, I always end up putting 4-ways in them.
I like that.
Interesting.
But the other thing is cool about that is that you can play with 2 players, which is unusual.
Yeah, I think that that particular game, it's made to take your quarter, though. It's designed for you to only make it so far and throw more money in it. Similar to Gauntlet, for example. They designed those games so you just shell out money and just keep throwing it in it.
Yeah, man. I love the fact that you have this good mix of 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. You're like a classic radio station.
Hey, what? I want to circle back real quick. What's the top 3 pinball earners right now?
Some of the newest stuff. It's, in my opinion, it's all theme based, right? So sure. A person that walks in who's never played a pinball machine, do they approach an Attack from Mars? Maybe because the new ones are super flashy and bright and all that kind of stuff. But I think people approach theme first.
Yeah.
So if they like Deadpool, for example, they'll just approach that. Or if they see a Guardians of the Galaxy, they like the movie, so they approach that.
That's interesting.
Some of these newer games that have come out, like Munsters, I think that theme. I mean, I like the Munsters. I always love the show.
Sure.
But does a 21-year-old even know who the Munsters are?
I feel like that's a weak attempt for them to copy Addams Family.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it is, man. And it's I'm not sure if people are going to play it. We just got them in, so we'll find out.
Right. Do you as far as, and I know the way your pinballs, at least in I think the Lodo location, it's a very long row of pins. Do you try to towards the bar versus further down?
I guess you're saying do we put them in specific locations?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we actually do that. We shuffle games around. You know what they say about location. You always have to keep it fresh. So you move stuff around. There's a lot of games that when you walk into the place, we put the first one. I mean, the newest ones right where they're visible.
Well, that's got to be awesome having 3 locations where you can rotate.
That's the best part, man, because if a game doesn't do well in one location, we can try it in another location, and if it doesn't work in that one, we move it to the third location. And it's been interesting because some stuff might not earn at Lodo,
Sure.
but it crushes at Colfax.
How are you? Do you guys have any of the new like indie games? I mean, I guess Killer Queen's not so much indie anymore. They've kind of taken off, but Killer Queen, Death Ball. There's a couple of different games that are starting to make Cosmotrons.
Death Ball, man.
Yeah, I just bought a Cosmotron actually last week. It's sitting right here, like about 5 feet from me.
I saw that you bought that. That's freaking awesome. I mean, it's a cool game. I think they've had a slow ramp up. I really hope that we can help other people see this as a fun, competitive game, and they continue to work on it, which is something that I think is unheard of.
What I like about that specific game is that they put a lot of time in the design of it, so it looks kind of badass when you look at it.
Sure.
And I think that it's really sleek looking, and I think people will play it because of that. My concern really is all the tagging and like, you know, putting stickers on it and all that kind of stuff. It's a huge white surface, right?
Did you get a Woody or did you get a fiberglass one?
A fiberglass one.
Oh, that's so
and
sexy.
Talking about a Woody, somebody might draw a Woody on the side of it, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But dude, those fiberglass cabinets are fucking sick. I'm sorry, they're sexy as hell. I mean, they're really cool. They are badass. So Black Emperor, also by Bumblebee. Do you have one of those?
No, man. Some of those indie games, like we've had a lot of people approach us and pitch them to us. We've kind of been a little slow on jumping on those things.
Sure.
The only other one that we've purchased is, what's it called? It's like a side shooter. I forgot the name of it.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Sky Cursor.
Sky Cursor.
There you go.
Sky Cursor,
Yes.
yeah.
That's it.
You don't have Killer Queen?
No, we don't have that. Actually, I've been trying to get one for the last few weeks, and you know, they were going for about 10 grand from Raw Thrills.
Really?
And then Raw Thrills dropped it. So now to buy them from the original company, they're $15,000.
Are you kidding me? So Bumblebear's selling direct now. Oh, that's interesting. But that's a lot of damn money. You know what? You call them up and tell them you're going to pay 10 grand. That's all you're paying. I bet you this. I guarantee you they will sell you 2 of them. No,
those are funny cabinets though, because like I know with the guys locally, there's locations where they take off. People wait outside the bar here in Minneapolis to play that.
Yeah, I mean it's never not
morning.
busy. That game is freaking never not busy.
But then if you go down to Des Moines, nobody plays.
Oh, yeah, but you got to have it hooked up. It's got to be on the network. It's got to be doing its thing. You know what I mean? Like that game. So Killer Queen, for those that are listening that have never heard of it, it's kind of a joust. How would you guys describe it? It has origins in joust, but it's a team play game. Excuse me, 5 people on a machine. I'm gonna friggin' die. So on the show, that'd be great. So 5 people per console. Is that what I remember?
It's 2 teams of 5.
Yeah,
play competitively.
It is the most chaotic and brilliant, and there are multiple objectives in the game. I'm telling you, as far as like modern games exuding sort of the soul of a classic game, I'm just saying that Star Wars Battle Pod is not an example of that.
Yes, I would love to have that in my room.
No,
come on.
I'm gonna throw open my mouth a little bit, not just because I'm choking on my own vomit, but seriously, it is a really cool 2D platforming game, and I don't play it that often, but when I go there, I watch people and they're like, "Hey, jump in." I'm like, "Yeah, but I suck," you know. And they're like, they don't care. They want you to play. I think it's super fun. So,
well, let me tell you something. One of my friends here, his name is Andrew. He runs a place called Mile High Arcade.
Yeah.
And that particular dude has a pretty big location here. I think it's called the Punch Bowl Social or something like that. And he had a Killer Queen there.
Punch Bowl Social, man. Though that's a
it didn't do squat.
Yeah.
So he had to pull it.
That's some money.
Yeah. And that's what's been funny about some of these indies, and that's why I was asking about them at the OneUp. Is it seems like there's some locations with you having 3 locations. I know the local guys, they're kind of spread out between Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. There aren't multiple bars in one place, but how these do in local locations, because it is very dependent on where you are. And they've pulled them out of some places just because they don't do well when it's the same kind of bar, same theme, and same everything, just location wise. But it is a game where literally Sunday mornings you go down to Uptown in Minneapolis, and there will be people waiting outside the bar to play on a Sunday morning. And then like 4 or 5 blocks away, another bar just bought a cabinet because it's that popular. So
right.
It's crazy.
And it
Anyways,
is, and it has to be regional. I love the fact that you can rotate games and try things out in different regions in your own town. How far apart are your arcades?
So the Lodo location and the Colfax is like only 2 to 3 miles.
Yeah, I was just saying I could I ran to the other one. It was great.
And then the new location is about 20 minutes from those.
Still not bad. You could all 3 in a night.
Yeah, that's true.
And dude, like I have a coworker who lives in Denver part-time because his fiance's up here in Minneapolis. Long story, but anyway, he travels back and forth between Denver and here, Aurora area, and he loves your arcade, and he loves both locations, and he can go between them just getting a Lyft or an Uber,
Yeah. It's pretty popular, man. I think last year or the year before we got something like the top 10 places to go to in Denver or something like that.
That's so cool. You got to be very proud of that.
Yeah, my favorite thing is I'm proud. What a weird spot. So hey, my favorite. Let me. I'm sorry, I keep jumping in and trying to take over the thing, but the Ring o' Fire burger is my favorite burger. Do you have anything to do with these? By the way, they changed it. Like they made it like they pussified it. Let me be honest with you. It used to be like super hot, and then they made it like not as hot. Well, who did that? I need to talk to him.
Yeah, so it's actually Jordan, the one who thinks of all these different things to do. And he used to actually, manage a few restaurants and stuff like that. So he knows a lot about restaurants and food and all that kind of stuff. I ended up doing a lot of the taste tests and all that stuff, man. And believe me, I was regretting some of that stuff.
Oh man. I mean, I love the first time I got it, I was like dying. And then the second time they changed the recipe. So, but yeah, kudos to Jordan. What did we just say?
All right. I have a question. I want to go back in time just a little bit. Let's go back in time just a little bit. So we have a question that we ask all of our guests who are in the arcade collecting community. And it is basically, what's your arcade origin story? And you kind of told us a little bit. But what I'd like to know is, what is your earliest memory of playing a video game, and how did you get hooked on them? And how did it lead you to where we've been talking about today?
All right, that's a good question, man. So I'll tell you I know exactly how it went down. So I had about 10 aunts and uncles, and they were all about, from 5 years older than me to 30 years older than me.
Sure.
And when I was a kid, they had an Atari Pong, a home version of that.
That's what I had, dude.
And they used to play each other quite a bit, and they wouldn't let us play. All we could do is watch.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So then,
what a bunch of dicks.
After some time, what happened was they would walk away, and then my brother and I would sit there and play against each other. And then one of my uncles came back, and he was like, he kicked my brother off, and he said, "Let's play." And so when I kicked his ass, he yelled out to the rest of my uncles, and they all came running back again, and they all started trying to play me. And I started whooping all their asses. Meanwhile, I was like 6 years old, something like that, right? And then around that time, some of my younger uncles started to date. They would take me and my brother along to the arcades with them. So we used to go to the electromechanical type arcades, and we spent a lot of time there, actually. And
So give us a picture of some of the games. What do you remember?
The 70s type games,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, a lot of the old 70s, like gun games and stuff like that, you know.
Do you,
And then
okay, let me ask you. I'm going to interject. Do you remember like a shooting game with like a screen where you like it was like
was it Ninja something?
Yeah,
is that the one you were?
I don't remember, but like all those old 70s games, they had like shooting gallery games that were around.
Love those guys.
Like video, and then you had all the pinball machines that were like ding, da, da, ding, ding. So that's what you're talking about, right?
Right, that's exactly what. Yeah, it was a lot of that kind of stuff. But you know what was neat about those early games like that is that they did the best they could with what they had.
For sure.
So they would have like neon lights and bright colors in there, and things jumping around and stuff like that. It was pretty neat.
8-track tapes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
Right.
And then soon after that, right, like Space Invaders and all that kind of stuff started coming out, and it was kind of like mesmerizing. I remember walking into the arcade and just pitch black and just seeing like 30, 40 games. Just that's all you could see: the marquee, the screen, and that's it, right? And I would walk in there and I would just be blown away. I had never seen something like that, and I loved it.
I think Paul Saarinen was the first person to tell us, I think it was him, but he was telling us about the first time he approached a Donkey Kong machine. I think this was him. Maybe it was somebody else. But anyway, that particular machine had the smoked plexi, vertical mask. And so it looked literally like Donkey Kong was being displayed with magic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like
I mean, I feel like the Disc of Tron is also sort of magical even today because there's so many layers inside of a disc.
Yeah, I love that. I love that aspect. So you're talking about that sort of aesthetic. So definitely the mid 70s and the late 70s. You're like this is a place that I'm very fond of going because everybody's having a good time and this is magical.
It became something like I can't even explain it to you really. Like it became a thing for my brother and I. Basically, we started watching that Starcade show, and we used to subscribe to all those. What was it called? Electronic Games Magazine.
Sure. Yeah.
And all we would do was talk about games at school, and then we would walk to the arcade afterwards. There was Aladdin's Castle down the road from us.
Oh yeah, dude. I gotta get you.
I remember, like for example, when they got Tron in. And they unboxed it. They set it right in the front with a sign that said "new" on it. And my brother and I did circles around it like 4 or 5 times before we actually put a quarter in it because it was so amazing.
It's
like
a cool
black
game.
lights and the side art and stuff like that. It was really exciting to us. So whenever I realized I could actually start buying those games, I can't even explain to you. It was like the biggest thing in my life.
By the way, we had a roving manager from Aladdin's Castle on this show. You should look for that episode and also find the Facebook group. They would love to hear your story. And he's one of the admins on that too. So
I'll tell you a funny story about Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I went to Chuck E. Cheese when they first opened. I'm talking like, I'm not even sure what year it was, but it was like super early, right? And Chuck E. Cheese was walking around, and my brother and I ran out of money. And for the first time ever, I saw the back of a Donkey Kong open. And in my head, I had no idea what was in there, right? I can't even like think of what I was thinking was in that machine. But I looked inside and I saw the glow of the monitor neck, and I saw wires hanging down and a bunch of things like that. And I told my brother I was going to reach through and grab a fistful of tokens, right? So my brother was, I told him to keep an eye out for me. So he's like, okay. So I reached through, didn't want to touch any wires. And when I realized I touched the front, I put my hand down and I realized that Donkey Kong had like a box and I couldn't even grab tokens out of it. And but I found the button that gives free credits, right? And I knew the sound that it made. Yes. So I just kept pushing the button as many times as I could. All of a sudden, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, oh, shit. I turned around, and Chucky himself was staring at me.
Oh, my God.
And he put his finger up and went, like that. And I seriously crapped myself, right? And Chucky reached into his pouch and handed me like $5 worth of
Oh,
tokens.
what a mouse! God, I love that guy. Well, he was a rat back then. My Chuck E. Cheese was a rat, just so you know, and I'm proud of it. So we have a couple people in the chat that want to ask a couple questions. Paul says, "One game in your collection you will never sell."
You know, there's a game that my wife kind of makes fun of me about. It's Puyan, right? And I bought that Puyan when literally the day that my second daughter was born, and the shipping company called me up, and I was at the hospital. And the next day, I took off and went to go pick up the Puyan, and then I came back to the hospital. To this day, my wife says that game was more important to me than my kid.
The funny thing is she mentions that in the Channel 9 interview, by the way. But in I don't know which game it is, but now I do. So the funny thing is that is not like the first choice for me. Like Puyan is fun, but it
it's not about the gameplay for me. A lot of this stuff has a lot of nostalgia behind it, right?
Sure.
Where were you when you Pooh-yanned the first time?
Yeah. So that's it. So my brother.
Well, he was in front of Chuck E. Cheese, and then he Pooh-yanned right in front of him.
I dropped the Pooh-yan.
Chuck E. Cheese caught him.
So at the time we were living in Tahoe, and there used to be a Chuck E. Cheese in Sacramento that we used to go to whenever we'd go to the Bay Area, and we used to play Pooh-yan there. But what was important for us was that we liked the game so much that we bought it for the Commodore 64. And we played a lot of Pooh-yan on the C64. And just the memory of hanging out with my brother and enjoying the game. And just, it was the first game that we seeked out, that we found first on a TV show, which was that Starcade. And then we seeked it out and finally found it. And that was in that Chuck E. Cheese. That's why it was important to me.
Very cool.
What's the... go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, what is the kind of... there are some questions about our warehouse raids and things like that, but I guess what is the most surprising game, or kind of like, I mean, you mentioned this was one that you would never sell, obviously very exciting, but you got a story about like the most exciting find you had where you kind of found something you didn't think you would, or?
You mean, are you talking about a specific game, or have I ever had like that situation happen?
Either a specific game or a collection of games, or you walked into a warehouse, and I mean, just what's the most exciting find, or either by a group of games or a specific game that you've had?
You know, the most exciting, I guess, would be when we went to a warehouse in what was it, in West Virginia. We went to pick up so we were living in Florida, and we drove all the way to West Virginia to pick up a Tempest. Okay. And on the way back, we stopped at a donut shop, and my friend Jason, we had a little list. So we had a list of all the old arcade operators from the 70s and 80s. We had probably a few thousand people on that list. And every time we would stop to get gas, my friend Jason would be like, okay, we're in South Carolina or whatever it was. Let me give this place a call, right? And what happened was, when we were at that donut shop, he called this random number, and they were like, yeah, you know what? We have a huge building full of games. So instead of driving back down to Florida, we drove over to that warehouse. It was just like a mile or two from where we were at. And when we went in there, they had like 5,000 arcade games, maybe even more than that. And the guy said to us, we could take whatever we want for $50. So we just sat there and picked up, like, you know, Missile Command cockpits, like Star Wars, Duramold games, like anything you can think of was untouched for like 20 years there. And we were picking them up for nothing. It was really exciting. I remember like telling Jason, I was like, you know what, dude, if I had a sleeping bag, I'll just sleep here, because it was like so exciting for us, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And but by the way, they got sick of us. After us going there so many times, they just didn't want us around anymore, you know? But
they start creeping the price up. It's now $200 a game.
Yeah, in the end, it was $300 a game. And it was interesting, though, man, because I think they thought we were just going to hit them once and go away. all of a sudden it was like a monthly thing. We would drive all the way up there with the big truck and just fill it up.
You got a taste of a good thing.
Yeah, it was actually pretty awesome. So we found like a lot of sweet games there. But you know what, man? I've been pretty lucky. Like, because of the fact that I got into it really early and I was pretty aggressive, by the time I moved out in 2006 from Florida, I personally had found like 23 warehouses.
You had you shared your lists a little while ago, didn't you? You kind of posted up some of the operator lists, and you were nice enough to kind of let those out there so that people who are local could start looking up some of those names.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I'm surprised you saw that. Yeah, I posted the original PDF actually, and it was like, I think, a couple of thousand warehouses.
Yeah.
And you know, the way it works, man, is nowadays what a lot of people do is they just have like this feed that tells you what's popping up on Craigslist or whatever. But I found that like digging in and talking to people and really networking, that's really where you find games. This about a year and a half ago, I ended up finding like some pretty, like a really nice stash of games, and people keep talking about how there's no more warehouses and all this stuff. I mean, I found 3 or 4 in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So they still happen. And what I do is, I found this lady that had a bunch of games. I talked to her, then I find out who she bought them from, and then I talk to them, and it just keeps, I follow a trail until I find like the main source where these games come from.
I'll tell you, I've had like 2 or 3. It's kind of funny. I mean, I've had 2 or 3 patients. Actually, I had a patient yesterday who found out somehow that I collect games, and before the end of the appointment, he's going, "So can you fix this game?" And my buddy's got a garage of games, and it's funny where the stuff just comes up.
Yeah, man, it happens a lot. I've had people actually like follow me to the gas station and be like, "Hey, is that a Cuber in the back of your truck?" And I'm like, "Yep." They'll be like, "Well, I have 20 of them in my garage."
You post
what?
Or they'll be like, "Hey, man, I know a dude who has a whole warehouse full of them." And then that kind of stuff happens. So it's like, you can't just say, things aren't out there. There's plenty of stuff out there. Not like before, but there's still stuff out there.
Right. Hey, you just posted a nice find today, didn't you? I saw something go.
Star Wars Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens, man. Like, actually, man, that particular thing is a little bit different. What happened was Hyperspace, which is a pretty big arcade here in Denver, they're going to be relocating to Las Vegas. And what they're doing is she's going to try to sell off a lot of her stock because she doesn't want to take everything with her. So she figures she could sell off most of the easy stuff to get, and she could start fresh over there.
Yep.
And she's been offering me a lot of pieces, so I've been picking up a lot of the more rare pieces that I'm interested in.
Nice. Are we talking about Xyla stuff?
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Yeah. So that particular game is I got from Xyla.
I want to know this Xyla person. She sounds important.
So Brian, who may still be in the chat here, said to ask about the gas in the diesel tank story.
The one that Brian Jones asked about? Yeah, that story's a little bit weird, man. What happened was Brian and I were driving up to an auction from Florida through Atlanta. We were going somewhere. And you know how British Petroleum, BP, their pump is like green, and then everybody else's green is diesel.
Yep.
Sure.
And so what happened was when I pulled up, I was putting the green pump, into the vehicle, and then when it came to that one, I just grabbed the green pump and filled it up. So I filled it up with unleaded instead of diesel.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was horrible, man, because you could burn up the motor or something like that. So so the reason why Brian wants me to mention it is because of what I did. I ended up going to Burger King and taking a hose from their front yard, and then I cut it off and I stuck it into the actual tank, and I siphoned all the gas out of it.
Wow. Did you have to start it like yourself, like suck out through the water hose?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh my God. You're a brave man.
Yeah. So what happened was I drove out to this like wet field, and I just siphoned it and just poured it into this field, right? And Brian's like, He's like, "What the F are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you want me to do, man?" I was like, "We're gonna get stuck out here. I'm gonna end up messing up this truck." So I siphoned it and I filled up like a whole field full of gasoline. And then he's like, "You're just gonna leave it like that?" I was like, "Do you want me to throw a match on it?" I was like, "Let's just get the F out of here before something goes wrong, right?"
He says a half hour later you ran over a golden retriever.
That was a different time.
Oh, no.
We were driving back from an auction in North Carolina or something like that, and it was midnight or something. And we were driving down the mountain going into Atlanta, and we were going like 90 miles an hour. And yeah, golden retriever jumped out right in front of us, and we nailed it.
Oh well.
Way to
I mean,
ruin
that's
the show down.
that's the story.
Yeah.
Way to ruin the show.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
Thanks a
bring
lot,
that
Brian.
one up.
Hey, Brian brought that one on. I guess I'll take blame for it. But Paul actually brought up another good question. Paul's like hammering the chat with questions. Is there a game that you have always wanted but never had?
You know what, man? No, not really, because
Because he has them all.
yeah, I've picked up every game I've wanted. I think I can't think of one that I haven't. To be honest,
Have you ever gotten a Nintendo Hellfire?
Nintendo Hellfire? I only a cocktail version.
Interesting.
Oh, listen, he's got a cocktail version, man.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, think about this for a second. I mean, I was pretty aggressive about collecting since the '90s, right? So what happens is anything that I was wanting, I already grabbed probably a few times,
right?
You know,
Sure.
and so here's the stupid part. I'm so excited about finding stuff. So even though it's like my fifth Major Havoc, I'm so excited about finding it. You know?
Oh hell yeah!
I'm gonna
I
hang
mean-
up. I'm hanging up right now. Hanging up. This is
You
not
are
this.
fifth Major Havoc.
Hey, I just picked up a Major Havoc board yesterday, so I'll be able to finish mine off.
Oh my god, you guys are pissing me off. The show was good until Major Havoc was brought up,
Wow.
and now I'm not happy. Now I'm an unhappy person.
Yeah, but realistically, man, I can't think of anything. Just recently, I said to myself I wanted to pick up a 4-player gauntlet, and I picked one up, and I was pretty excited about that. So realistically, man, I've picked up everything a few times.
So do
Stuff
you
that
like
I've
do you
wanted.
network with like Doc or Doc Mack over in Chicago? Do you network with him?
I've talked to him a few times. You know, I ask him questions and stuff like that too. Like, I'll send him a message here and there, asking him about how his games do or what he thinks about a specific game and stuff like that. I've sold a lot of games to Grinkers actually, and
Nice.
what's that other place called? That museum in Banning. I've sold those guys a lot of games as well. Here's the thing, man. I kind of like to specialize in stuff, so I specialize in the harder stuff to find, so the rare pieces and stuff. So
See, I always thought that that's where Exidy came from, but I learned tonight that that's not true. So, are there Exidy games that you love and Exidy games that you hate?
you know, for the most part, I like it. I just said this to somebody just the other day. I said, you know, I have a hard time finding a game I don't like. I could find something that I like in just about every game, you know, and it's like with Exidy stuff, I don't think the Exidy games are all that great. I do like the gun games, you know. I think those are great. I think Cheyenne and all those games are amazing, actually.
Chiller.
Yeah, Chiller's great. I think Crossbow's amazing. I also like games like Venture and Pepper 2.
Yeah,
You know.
I love Venture.
Oh.
Yeah, Mousetrap. I love Mousetrap.
Yeah.
My wife is looking for a chiller. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you know, I have a Chiller actually, and so have her contact me. Maybe I'll sell it.
Okay. Okay, I'll have her
Sweet.
send you some pictures.
Oh yeah. So, but you know, Mousetrap. I'll tell you a funny story about Mousetrap. Do you guys know who Todd Rogers is?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at a classic gaming convention in Las Vegas, and Todd Rogers was up on this stand, and there was probably a crowd of a few hundred people. And Todd Rogers was boasting about he could kick everybody's ass at any game at any time.
Nice.
And I thought it was pretty funny because I actually like Todd Rogers, by the way. I love that type of an attitude.
We had him on our show.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, like bring it on. I love that type of attitude, right? So he's like, anybody want to play me? I mean, after his little speech, everybody was crapping their pants, right? So I yelled out, I'll kick your ass. And he was like, oh, yeah, what game? And I said, what game are you horrible at? And he said, he looked at the game line and he said, Mousetrap.
Really?
And I said, well, I'll kick your ass at Mousetrap. Let's play it.
Nice.
So when we went over there, I whooped his ass so bad it wasn't even funny, right?
That game is hard. It is not an easy game.
Well, here's the thing, though, man. If you're just trying to get points, don't beat the level. Just pick up all the little prize things, right?
Right.
That's all you do. So he was trying to beat the levels. All I was doing was picking up the little prize things. And before you know it, I whooped his ass really bad. He whispers to me, he's like, you know what, man? You suck.
He's Toddzilla, man. He's Toddzilla.
That sounds like Todd, yes.
Yeah, I actually still have, he had to take a picture with me. And he signed one of those Billy Mitchell hot sauces, right? And then I got like a $50 voucher or something like that. And I still have it just because of that, the memory of that.
Nice.
I just want to say Billy Mitchell's hot sauce, the Ricky's hot sauce, is pretty good.
Sure, it's like Louisiana hot sauce, pretty much.
But I think I like it. It got a different flavor. It's good. Just saying. I'm just saying I like it.
You know, Billy Mitchell actually. I don't speak to him often, but last time I saw him, I said to him, "Hey, man, whenever I sell a game, I want to give out a Billy Mitchell hot sauce." And he's like, "Give me your address." So I gave him my address. He sent me a whole pallet of it for free.
Oh, damn.
We were actually trying to get him to put him in little ketchup type packets at one point, which I guess is really hard to do with the hot sauces because of the preservation of them or how they're preserved. Mm-hmm. Because we were going to send them out with all the orders. We thought it'd be awesome to just throw them in because we used to throw Hawaiian chocolates in the orders from Paradise.
Yeah,
and since we moved back from Hawaii, it's harder for us to get the chocolates.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so we thought about doing that at one point and talked to him about it, and he kind of looked at us and told us that there was way too much involved.
He pretty much said no.
Yeah, he's like, yeah,
Pour
thank
some
you.
inside of a Ziploc bag. You'll be fine.
I will say, if you're going to order Ricky's hot sauce, don't get it on Amazon. Buy it direct and buy it by the case because you'll save a ton of money.
Yes.
Have you guys had Billy Mitchell on the show?
No, we haven't.
We've tried.
No, we haven't tried.
A little bit.
No, we haven't tried.
Come on, season 1. You like think back.
We have not tried. We have not asked.
So
I'm not going to argue.
Well,
I run this show. I know whether or not I've asked anybody to be on it. We did not ask Billy to be on the show.
Okay.
We generally try to avoid issues of conflict, and recently there's been a lot of conflict.
Issues of conflict.
This.
What are you talking about?
No. This was at the beginning in season 1. You were trying to get Billy. You just seem to have forgotten that. So
no, I didn't try to get him. I said it would be nice to have him at some point. I did not try to get him on the show. In fact, I met him. Listen. This is about John. This is not about Billy. I hate it when it becomes about Billy. And when it becomes about Billy, I get angry.
What timeline am I in right now? That's all I want to know. Hold on, I have another John question.
Good.
Longest time it took you to close a deal on something.
Longest time. There was a lady recently. This is a pretty cool story, actually. This lady calls me up and says,
"A pretty cool
Hey,
story.
Listen, I have a bunch of games that my parents gave me when I was 12, back in '82, and none of them work. So I want to get rid of them now." And I said to her, "Well, give me a list." So she starts reading them off. Right? She says Zector. She says Tempest. She says Monster Bash.
Wow.
Every title was super badass, right?
Yeah.
I actually grabbed my phone and I stared at it for a few seconds, and I was like, "Is this a prank call? Like, is this for real?" And then I said, "Hey, wait a second. Can you list off those games again?" Zector, Monster Bash, and I was like, "What the heck?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested in buying those games from you." She said, "Well, I just wanted to call you up. You're actually the third one in line. I called 2 other people first, and if they say no, then you can have dibs on it." And I was like, "What did you even call me then?" And she's like, "Well, I was just checking around." I go, "You understand? I have money. I have a truck. I have a friend with a doll and a dolly." I was like, "I could show up like in an hour and we can make this deal happen." She said, "Oh no, I'm gonna wait for the other two first."
Ah.
And I was like, "Okay." So like 2 weeks go by, and I was thinking about it. I called her back and I said, "Hey, listen, do you still have the games?" She's like, "Yeah, nobody's called me back." And I said, "Well, can I come by and take a look at them?" She said, "Nope, I'm going to Alaska for a month. When I come back, give me a ring around a month from now." So she left. A month and a half later, I had totally forgot about her. I called her a month and a half later, and her daughter answered the phone, and she said, "You know what? My mom and dad loved Alaska so much they stayed for another month or two, right?" And I was like, "What the heck?" So I basically waited 3 months, called them back, and she says to me, "I'm still waiting for the other people to call." And I was like, "Listen, I don't understand why you're waiting for them. I have the money. I have, a vehicle.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you're waiting for." She's like, "Okay, fine. Come by and take a look at them." So I drove over there, took a look at them, and it was true. She had all the games, that she had the manuals for them. Everything looked like it was brand new condition, but nothing worked. So I said to myself, I'm going to make her a high offer because I don't want her to call the other people up afterwards and tell them that I offered them that much. Why don't they pay her more or something
Sure.
like that, right?
Makes sense.
So I gave her kind of like a really high price. I mean, high for all dead shit, right? But I was like, here's my offer. And I was expecting her to say yes, no, or maybe, kick it up $500 or something like that. She goes, "Thanks for the offer. I'll give you a call sometime." And, I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" Right? I was there with Dwayne Richard actually, and so I ended up leaving, went back to the OneUp, and I was seriously cursing up a storm. I was like, "F this woman! I can't believe this crap.
Wow.
This is bullshit." All this type of stuff. I was throwing a temper tantrum, and my friend and Dwayne's like, "What if she calls you back?" I go, "If she calls me back, I'm gonna tell her to jump off a bridge." I was like, I was throwing. I mean, I was going off, right? Phone rings like 1 minute later. She goes, "You know what? If you could throw in an extra $300, I'll throw in another game I didn't tell you about, and we have a deal." And I was like, "I'll be there in 30 minutes." Right? I got in my truck with Dwayne Richard. We drove over there, and the first game I pulled out was the Zector because I know the way deals go, and sometimes things just don't work out. So I figure I always get the best stuff first because if something goes bad, I already have the games in my truck.
Right. Nice.
So what was the extra one she threw in?
It was a shuffleboard or something like that, which ended up being a mistake because it was huge. It was like 8 foot long or something like that. So I had to go back for it the next day. I almost thought about not going back, but I was like, deal's a deal. I wouldn't have picked it up and had to just unload it.
Right. Nice.
It's funny, you get these people who have the games and they're not in the hobby, and so to them it's just a transaction.
Right.
To us it's like this, like you're salivating, chomping at the bit, like, come on, what's going on? You get all upset when they're not calling you back. I know around here we've had people where, I've called a guy and he's like, "Well, I'm not home. Can I get back to you?" I'm like, "You don't understand. Like, you have put out like chum in the water. And this is like, I'm the first fish to bite. Like, let's go here, buddy. I want this bait."
Yeah, I've had some really weird experiences, man. Ever since this whole Craigslist thing kind of took off, I've been to people's homes to pick up a game, and then there'll be somebody else on the phone saying stuff like, "Your game's too cheap," and I'll be like, why are you trying to shit in my cereal bowl or whatever? I can't believe that. You know what I'm saying? It's like if the guy lists the game, let's just say it was a Donkey Kong that this happened to actually.
Sure.
The guy listed the Donkey Kong for $500, and I thought it was a fair deal, so I went over there to pick it up. And while I was there, some other collector was telling them that they were selling it too cheap, and I was like, "Listen, dude, I'm already here. You said $500. Here's my $500. I was like, deal's a deal, no?" And the guy's like, "Fine." But I've had that kind of stuff happening more often, as the years progress.
It's funny because you say that because we just bought a high speed for $500, And I get there, look at it. The lady's like trying to turn it on and do stuff. Her phone is going off, and I know what's happening on the phone.
Right.
And so I'm like, I don't need to see it work. Here's $500. She's like, well, let me do this. And she's, well, it's not coining up. I'm like, just take the $500. I'll take the game. And it was hilarious. So my buddy was visiting from California. We get the legs off the machine, start carrying it up the stairs, get halfway up the stairs. And she's like, there's somebody tells me I should be selling this for $1,200. And I look at her with this pinball machine halfway up her basement. I'm like, no, we just kept going to the truck.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, man? I mean, that kind of stuff happens a lot. To be honest with you, I'm not so aggressive anymore. Like, now that we have our 3 locations and I have my collection, I'm not really like so actively looking for stuff. Every once in a while, you know, like I picked up that Beavis and Butthead a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was cool.
And then this Star Wars. So I'm not like hunting aggressively anymore because I'm kind of already set. But back in the day, I mean, when we were out there doing this, it was kind of like the Wild West. Like nobody really even gave a crap, you know. It's like,
sure.
That's why I did the price guide, by the way. The price guide story is pretty interesting because when I lived in Florida, I went to this lady's house, and she had a trailer home full of arcade games. And I'm not gonna lie to you when I say this. Every game looked worse than the previous game, right? It looked like somebody had dropped them, dragged them behind their vehicle. It had rained on them. Glass was missing off of them. You know, all swollen. They were just basically junk, right?
Swollen.
And I ended up looking at a millipede, and for some weird reason in Florida, I had a really hard time finding a millipede. So when I saw this millipede, I was excited about it, but it had like broken corners. The tinted glass was missing. It didn't even work. And I said to her, hey, how much do you want for this millipede? She said, I see this sell on eBay for $800. So I want $800 for it. And I said to her, look, the one on eBay is really nice. It has nice side art. It's not swollen. It has nice corners on it. I said, this is missing the glass, right? She's like, I don't know what you're saying. I want $800 for it. And I was like, crap, this is. So I left. I went, you know, I ended up going home and I was mad about it. So I was like, I'm going to start this stupid price guide and just put prices of stuff that what I think the games are worth and what people are telling me that they're worth. So I started making up this list, and I did it for free. You know, I just put a list of games,
sure,
and prices, and the list was only like maybe 50 games at first.
Yeah.
And then I kept adding stuff, and then between me and you guys, I thought nobody was even looking at it. And I mean, it was just a stupid hobby site with this price guide on it. And
sure.
Then you guys brought up Steve McDonald earlier. Steve McDonald came to my house, and he had a printout. Like an old printout on like this old like Apple II, dot matrix printout of it, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "What the hell is this?" And he goes, "This is a printout of your price guide." And I was like, "So what?"
From 1983.
And he was like, "Yeah, man, I live and die by this." And I was like, "Why?" I go, "It's just a stupid price guide." I go, "My opinion," and it's like, my opinion in my area, even. You know what I'm saying? And he goes, "No, man. Whenever I buy something, I look at your price guide." He goes, something pops up, I look at it. And I was like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden people start emailing me. I mean, this is around, after 2006, 2007, 2008. All of a sudden people cared about it. And it was really interesting to me because, like I said, it was just kind of like, I figured I could go to that lady's house and be like, look, your millipede, my price guide said it's only worth $400,
I have a quick question for you. On the price guide, what is the game that kind of most surprised you for how expensive it got? Because a lot of these games, like, it's interesting watching them like creep up over time. But what's the one that kind of shocks you as to what it went up to?
Well, Quantum has always been super interesting to me. Back in the day, Quantum was like $1,000, and then later on it was like $2,000-$3,000. And I remember like. After a while, people were telling me they were selling it for like $5,000 or $6,000, and the same thing with Dedicated Major Havocs, right? I remember when Dedicated Major Havoc was $2,500 for the longest time.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it was $5,500.
Sure.
And I remember saying to myself, "Who's going to pay $5,500 for an arcade machine?" And then people kept complaining to me, "Hey man, they're going for more than that now." And I was like, I haven't seen it for myself. I don't know if it's true or not. Just because somebody says it's going for more doesn't mean it's going for more. So then I started getting feedback from people that I trust. Hey, I just sold mine for 8,000 or whatever. So those things are, that kind of stuff is like hard to believe. I'll tell you a story about a quantum. There was this guy, he was from Oregon. His name was Arnold, and he sold a baseball collection that he had for big bucks, right? Like a couple of $100,000 or something like that. And he started getting into arcade collecting, and he started picking up all the rarest stuff and paying top dollar for the stuff. So the guy called me up and said he wanted to buy a timber that I had. And he says, "How much do you want for your timber?" I said, "You know what, man, my price guy says 800, but I said, mine is worth 2,200. And he said, "How do you figure?" I said, "Well, mine's, number one, it's in mint condition, no swelling. I put a brand new monitor in it that cost me like, $400 or $500 or whatever it was." And I said, "They don't make overlays or anything for this game. Mine is 2,200. So he said, "I don't want your game then. I could buy one off of eBay for $8." And I said, "Well, have fun buying one for $800 then."
Yeah.
2 months later, he called me back and said, "You know what, man? I'll pay your 2,200. So I was thinking he's going to PayPal me, then I was just going to ship the game to him. What happened was he rented a truck and drove from Oregon all the way to Florida, and it took him 5 days to get there. When the dude shows up, he sees my timber and goes, "Oh my God, this timber's beautiful. Here's your 2,200 for it." And he goes, "But I'm not leaving without that quantum."
Oh my God.
And I said to him, "Well, I'll tell you something funny. That quantum's not for sale." So he said, No, you didn't hear what I said. I'm not leaving without it. And I go, "Well, you didn't hear what I said. It's not for sale, right?" He goes, "Well, let's go out to lunch. We'll have a talk, and then we'll see about that, right?"
Oh my God.
So
That's kind of creepy. If Steve Murky's still in the chat, he's like, "Please sell me a timber. Do you have a timber?"
Yeah. So check us out. So we go out to lunch. I say no to him, right? Now it's dinner time. We go out to dinner. I still say no to him. Now it's midnight.
If you're out to dinner and you say no, no means no. That's all I gotta say.
No.
You shouldn't have to do any more than that. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. So now it's midnight, and my wife was going to college to get like her nursing degree or something like that, and she's like exploding on me, right? She's like, "Throw this guy out of the house." I go, "Hey, listen, he's not leaving. He's been here for 12 hours, and he's not taking no for an answer." She goes, "He better leave, or I'm going to throw his ass out of here." And I was like, "Okay, let me go over there and have one last talk with him." So I went back to the front, and I said, "Hey, Arnold, did you hear what I said? I'm not going to sell you this game." He goes, "Listen, I have a Robotron cocktail in my van right now. It's worth at least $2,000. Throw out any number you can think of, and I'll throw this Robotron on top of it." And I said, this is when quantums were going for like $3,000 or $4,000, by the way, right? So I said, 6,500? He goes, he just jumped up, walks out to his vehicle, came back with $100 bills, hands it to me, unloads the Robotron, grabs the quantum, runs out of my house, doesn't even say goodbye, and just takes off.
All right, that is
Oh my God.
awesome. Okay.
So
and
then,
really? Okay. Go ahead.
So then he calls me like 5 minutes later, and he goes, "Hey man, sorry about that. I want to thank you for hooking me up with this game. The reason why I did that's because you've been a real pain in the ass to deal with, and I want to get the hell out before you change your mind."
Oh my God. And you're like, "Okay, thanks for the $6,500. Wow, holy crap! That's
understandable.
That is epic.
If you go to KLOV right now and look up Quantum, the actual picture of my machine is the one that's pictured there, and that's the one that he got.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I hate to do this because it's been so fun. And we've gotten way over.
Time to wrap up?
It's time to wrap up. It's time to wrap this up. John, thank you for being on the show. Could you give us, you got to plug your own arcade. Give us a little bit of that. So tell us where we can find your arcade, where we need to find your websites and all that stuff. Okay.
So yeah, just actually find us on Facebook. Just look up OneUp Denver, OneUp Lodo, OneUp Greenwood Village, and OneUp Colfax. Facebook's the best place and the easiest place to find us.
Okay, that's cool.
And I appreciate this interview, man. Thanks a lot.
Dude, we appreciate being on the show. This is our honor, not your. I mean, this has been fantastic. Am I right, guys?
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and you got to be on again. We're gonna have you on.
You guys take it easy.
And stick around after the show because we're gonna just we have a little wrap up we like to do. So this has been the Double R's. So thanks for listening. Arcade Radio, and we have switched from SoundCloud to Arcade, to Anchor.fm. So you can still find us on iTunes. You can still find us on Google Play, but we are now on Anchor.fm. Check it out. It's pretty cool.
That's
right. Also
Facebook.
Check us out on Facebook.
Yeah. Where else? Where else can you find us?
ArcadeRadio.com.
Facebook.com/Arcade Radio.
Yeah. And 612-548 game, which we mentioned earlier in the show, which I don't care. It's not really good.
Mine just updated. Call and leave comments, as Adam just said. Follow us on Facebook, ArcadeRadio.com, Twitter at Arcade Radio.
Okay. Should we just close this thing out?
We should close it out.
We're done. I like this music.
Make sure to like us on YouTube.
It's a new
Just
exit
one
song.
click.
There we go.
Oh yeah. I play this when I have to start my car. I'm just waiting for the dial sound.